Welcome to Get Rich Slowly, the show where we break down the quiet forces that build real wealth over decades, not days. Today we're digging into something that sounds like science fiction, but is already reshaping factories, cities, and your investment portfolio: digital twins. By the end of this episode, you'll see why the boring spreadsheet version of your factory floor is about to become the most valuable asset most companies own, and how that slow motion shift is creating the safest, highest conviction wealth building opportunity most people will ever ignore. Let's start with the simplest definition that actually matters. A digital twin is a living, breathing software replica of a physical thing, not a static 3D model you spin around on a screen. A twin that updates in real time as its real-world counterpart moves, heats, wears, or breaks. Think of it as a shadow that knows more about you than you do. The concept isn't new. NASA used primitive twins in the 1960s to mirror spacecraft on the ground, but 3 quiet revolutions have collided in the last 5 years to make them the spine of modern capitalism. First, sensors got cheap. A vibration sensor that cost $200 in 2015 now costs $2 and ships in lots of a million. Second, cloud compute got cheaper than the electricity to run your own servers. Third, AI learned to predict failure better than the best human engineer. Put those together and suddenly every jet engine, wind turbine and warehouse robot can afford its own twin. Here's the part most people miss. The twin isn't the cool part. The cool part is what the twin lets you do with capital. Imagine you own a fleet of delivery vans. Without a twin, maintenance is a coin flip. You either fix things too early and waste money, or too late and lose customers. With a twin, every brake pad, tire tread, and battery cell streams data. The twin runs 1 million Monte Carlo simulations overnight and tells you, with 96% confidence, that Van 217 will throw a suspension fault in 41 days if you keep the current route, but 108 days if you swap it to lighter downtown runs. You schedule the repair for day 100, avoid the tow truck, and pocket the difference. That single decision is tiny. Multiply it by 10,000 vans and you've just added 1% or 2 to the line. Do it across every asset class and you've built a moat no competitor can cross without the same data history. That is the quiet click of compound returns. Now scale the lens. GE Aviation doesn't sell jet engines anymore. It sells power by the hour. The physical engine is table stakes. The margin lives in the twin that predicts when a turbine blade will crack 400 flights before it happens. The airline pays GE to keep the engine in the sky, not to own the metal. The twin is the product. The engine is the billboard. This is where capitalism quietly rewrites its own source code. And the old playbook said own the scarce physical thing. The new playbook says own the scarcer prediction about the thing. The physical asset becomes a subscription fee to keep the twin accurate. Let's follow the money. In 2023, the digital twin market was valued around $10 billion. McKinsey projects $70 billion by 2030, but that's the consulting slide deck number. The real number is the second order effect nobody models. Every dollar of twin spend shaves $2 to $5 off operating cost. A large refinery I studied cut unplanned downtime by 38% in 18 months. That's not $70 billion in revenue. That's $200 billion in freed up cash flow. Cash flow is what funds dividends, buybacks, and the slow, boring wealth that outlives hype cycles. So where do you, the individual investor, plug in? 3 places. First, the picks and shovels layer, the companies that make the sensors, the edge gateways, the secure data fabric. Think Rockwell Automation, PTC, Siemens MindSphere. These are not sexy names. Their PE ratios sit in the mid-20s, not the 70s, because Wall Street still thinks they sell hardware. They don't. They sell the nervous system for every twin on Earth. When adoption inflects, revenue sticks like glue and margins fatten because software scales and sensors don't. Second, the vertical leaders who twin their crown jewels. John Deere doesn't talk much about it, but every new combine rolling off the line ships with a twin that knows soil compaction down to the inch. The farmer buys the iron, Deere monetizes the yield map. Third, the quietest compounder of all. The REITs and infra funds that own the buildings where twins live. Data centers, edge micro hubs, 5G small cells. A digital twin needs latency measured in milliseconds, so the compute has to sit within 50 miles of the asset. That pushes capex to the edge of the network, and edge real estate compounds at 8 to 10% yields for decades. Prologis and Digital Realty don't put twin-enabled on the leasing brochure, but read the fine print on their NVIDIA colo tenants. The risk? Execution lag and data moats. Twinning a single pump is easy. Twinning an entire supply chain is a decade-long data archaeology project. Most companies will botch the integration and blame the technology. That's your margin of safety. The leaders who nail the data lineage will own uncrossable moats, while the laggards burn cash on half-baked pilots. There's also the privacy boogeyman. A twin of a city's traffic system knows when you leave for work. A twin of a hospital's Havak Now's occupancy spikes before the ER does. Regulation will come, but it will come slowly and surgically, because governments want the efficiency gains as badly as corporations do. Buy the rumour, sell the legislation, that's the cycle. Now the part nobody wants to hear, this trend takes 15 years to mature. The factory that installs its first twin in 2026 will see the full ROI in 2033. The investor who buys the sensor maker at 23 times earnings in 2026 will clip a 3% dividend and watch the multiple expand to 35 by 2035 as the market finally notices the recurring revenue line. That is get rich slowly in its purest form. Your action step is boring on purpose. Open your brokerage account, set a monthly buy order for an equal weight basket of the 6 names we just discussed. Turn off the price alerts, check back in 5 years. The twin you own in pixels will be quietly minting the cash flow that funds your grandkids' tuition. That's the magic nobody tweets about. The future isn't a hologram in a venture capitalist's pitch deck. It's a CSV file of bearing temperatures, refreshed every second, compounding at 12% a year while you sleep. Thanks for listening to Get Rich Slowly. If this episode made you think twice about the factory next door, share it with someone who still thinks software eats the world. Next week, we're talking about the unsexy reinsurance contracts that quietly backstop the entire green energy transition. Until then, keep your time horizon long and your ego shorter.